It's undeniable.
I don't think they realise how fragile some of our systems are at the moment.
How much more proof do you need beyond animals starving in front of people every day?
There is a serious disruption happening in our oceans.
So this canyon goes down to 1,000 metres, which means we have a lot of deep water species here, but we also have really shallow areas straight off that canyon, which brings a lot of shallow species as well.
So we have this huge abundance of diversity in wildlife here.
Fur seals, sperm whales,
Little blue penguins,
Albatrosses, shags,
blue whales, dusky dolphins. I have never experienced a place like Kaikoura with such diversity.
I'm Ellie Hooper, Oceans Campaigner at Greenpeace Aotearoa. I'm here in Kaikoura, which is a hotspot for marine wildlife. Climate change, destructive fishing and pollution all put the wildlife that finds a home here at risk. The same is true for the New Zealand fur seal. A study released by the Department of Conservation this year revealed that 1,000 fur seals had starved here in Kaikoura.
When you talk about starvation, it generally presents as something very obvious, emaciation. So it's really quite obvious in a lot of animals that they are struggling to find enough food. And there's been extensive data on that in terms of the seals. There's been testing with DOC and MPI to prove that is starvation. Those animals ultimately die from organ failure. And if you're doing necropsies, which is the equivalent of an autopsy, you will see that by organ breakdown and bleeding around the brain and things like that. Seals are really undervalued, I would argue, that they're just sort of expected to be here, and the tourists, the visitors, they love to see those animals. We're lucky to have seals in Kaikoura. We're a stronghold. There used to be 2 to 3 million in New Zealand. We have 5% of the former national population.
The coolest thing about the fur seals is that you can see them, from such a close vantage point in Kaikoura. We often need to sort of see a species up close to be able to appreciate it and then really understand their story and want to protect them. I'm Dr. Krista van der Linde and I am a marine mammal researcher. Most of my travels have been around going and seeing marine mammals all over the world. Driving along the Kaikoura coastline and just seeing fur seals on most of the rocks as you come into the area is a really unique thing. Numbers were decimated from hunting, however they have recovered, but obviously that doesn't mean that they're safe. We need to ensure that their populations continue to recover, and I guess also knowing that these animals are an indicator of other species that will also be feeding in our oceans. We need to take notice of those threats.
What is lesser known is that so many species are already struggling from starvation. So that is the fur seals and extremely so the seabirds. So we've seen this for many years. It is a worsening issue that is because of compounding threats, and that is primarily climate change and overfishing. Those birds have all got completely skeletal frames. There is no fat reserves or muscle mass. It does haunt you what you see, and the biggest thing is all of it is avoidable. The road to recovery for those birds is many, many months in care. It then relies on someone like me, a rehabilitator, to treat and stabilise. At the moment I have to transfer everything afield because we just don't have the wildlife facilities here.
I think the seabirds are the canary in the coal mine because we can't see under the sea.
Hi, how's it going? I'm Ellie.
Oh, Ellie, nice. My name's Pauline Howard. I'm the lead veterinarian at the South Island Wildlife Hospital. We get a lot of birds that are hit by cars. We get birds that are caught by dogs and a lot of starving seabirds in the last 3 years. I can see massive loss of biodiversity if we don't do something in the very near future. And that makes me sadder than euthanizing badly injured birds. And once you lose them, they don't come back.
So if the fish are starving, the seabirds are starving, the marine mammals are starving, what is this telling us? They're saying the ocean is not well. They're waving a red flag. They're saying things need to change.
If the whale is being impacted, phytoplanktons, fur seals, dolphins are going to be impacted. That tells us from a Māori world view that there is a serious disruption happening in our oceans. O tēnā koe, ko hukirangi te maunga, ko waiapu te awa ko Ngāti Porou te iwi, ko tōku ingoa, ko mere tāko ko. I have been to Kaikoura, I have talked to kaitiaki that have worked with whales for over 30 years. We see the whales as eco-engineers of the ocean, and also they're our ancestors. So for us it's about protecting those ancestors, but also the whole food chain. there appears to be less of an upwell of nutrients in the Kaikoura Canyon. I think that issue is probably compounded by the fact that whales, because of the changes in their migratory patterns, aren't being able to bring those vital nutrients that they do from Antarctica. What we're observing in places like Kaikoura are indicators of the stress being placed on food stocks and therefore the rest of life as we know it in our oceans.
It's not often one major threat, it's a whole host of threats, and you only need that one next push, like climate change now, being the last nail in the coffin.
Well, I assume if they're coming in starving, it means there's not enough fish. And whether that's from global warming alone or whether it's from overfishing. If it looks as though they're not taking as many fish off our coastline, it's because the fish aren't there to catch and they're having to go get further away to get them, not that they're fishing any less.
Exponentially worsening is the only way to describe it, without driving hopelessness. It is a call to action, yeah. And that inspires me. I mean, I remain passionate despite everything I see. We have the capability to change.
It's clear from talking to people in Kaikoura that the ocean is under increasing pressure from climate change and overfishing. And what's happening here is an indicator of what's happening in the wider ocean. We need urgent action to curb destructive fishing and limit climate emissions so that life here and beyond can thrive.
We've come a long way, if you think about fur sealing and whaling, and we're not doing that anymore, but we're harming the ecosystem in other ways.
Well, I think that we need to keep up our studies with global warming, and we actually need to do as much as we can to control global warming.
When you assemble all of that mātauranga Māori with the scientific practice, it actually gives you a much more holistic understanding.
My vision is that we can actually re-establish this place as a research hub. I feel that we have a real responsibility, if this is a tourism town that's actually benefiting from ecotourism with these animals, to give back.
We are all one living organism. We are all connected and we're all related.
We rely on nature, we're not separate from it. We need this ecosystem to be well.